Hello, this is Robert with Beyond 20. Today we're working in Cherwell version 5.11, specifically one of the new features called the System Analyzer. This was rolled out in the big release in Cherwell version 5. And to access this System Analyzer, we're going to launch the blue planet and go up to Help and then System Analyzer. This tool allows advanced users to track behind-the-scenes operations in a live environment directly from the blue planet. It can be used for troubleshooting, assessing performance issues, or even finding values of specific fields on the business object that you're currently looking at. So if you needed to copy a specific rec ID, or just take a look at what information is changing while you're working with a specific record, this allows you to break it down to the field level value and see what those actual values are. So to get started, there's a feature here to enable or disable it, basically start or stop the System Analyzer. And then the next three buttons, the run, pause, and then next message, this is going to relate to any breakpoints that have been established, which we'll get to those in a moment. The next icon here gives us the ability to select specific categories to filter the messages that display on our screen. So for example, if we don't want to look at the business objects, or we only want to look at the one steps that might be running, we'll go ahead and deselect all these options and then click on one step, and that will only display information relating to one steps that are running in the background. So this is a great way to analyze what's going on the screen and kind of limit the messages so you're not being overloaded when all you really care about is what's going on in one of your one steps. Go ahead and cancel those changes here. Another great tool here is the ability to simulate latency. So you can simulate latency to understand how configuration affects the overall user experience for customers that are accessing the server or database from a long distance away. It's going to allow you to enable it and select the number of milliseconds. And then breakpoints, I mentioned that earlier. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at what options we have here. If we're working with a specific record and we want to stop Cherwell from processing the next actions that it's going to take when a certain change happens. So in this case, I set up a breakpoint to look for Henry Bryce. So whenever the word Henry Bryce comes into this record that I'm on, it's going to pause, and it's going to wait for me to step through the System Analyzer to start analyzing what's going on as it progresses through that change. So this is great if you're trying to troubleshoot something and you're not sure what's being changed while the records are being modified. The System Analyzer is a perfect tool for this case. So here I have enabled the breakpoint Henry Bryce. Let me just edit that so we can show you what that looks like. We have any category option listed here. So this means that anything with the word Henry Bryce is going to pause what's going on in Cherwell. So I'm going to demo this here in a moment, but we'll leave this enabled for now and continue on. The next big feature of the System Analyzer, in fact, the one that I probably use the most, is going to be the ability to view the business object values. So these are the individual fields. This is a tree of all the values, which is nice because it's broken down by the different categories or folders that were specified when the business object was created. If we want to pull any kind of rec IDs from here, we can just double click in here, highlight, and then copy and paste. It just gives us a really large insight in terms of what is going on underneath the hood. What are the different values? What are the flags? What do we want them to be? Well, here we can see what actually Cherwell is presenting it as. You'll see some messages popped up while I was opening up that screen here. And so after you're working in the System Analyzer for a decent amount of time, there's often quite a few messages that display. You might decide that you want to export this in a CSV and then manipulate that in Excel to get a better idea of what's going on and looking into it in a little bit more detail, or maybe removing certain things that are on there. If there's a bunch of categories that you want to not display, you could put that into a pivot table in Excel and then just filter it out based off of that. So a lot of options you have here in the system analyzer. Then this is, like I said, going to save it as a CSV file here. And then if there's too much information here and you just want to remove everything from your screen, you can clear it just by clicking the little trash can icon. So let's actually see what happens when this is being used. So if I'm on just a basic incident record and I want to refresh it, so here if I update the short description and also say test, click save, System Analyzer is going to take a look at everything that's been done. Let me scroll back up here to the top. You'll see it's attempting to set the value, what used to be mouse is broken, to mouse is broken dash test. It's going to explain everything that's going on. It looks like there's some journal history records that are being created. There's a number field that's being updated, the number of touches. So that went from 32 to 33. That means we made an update, and Cherwell's keeping track of that. There's some rec IDs that are being set, some audit fields. Looks like there was a query to the user info table. There was a pop-up that was going to run, but that was not necessary based on another condition somewhere. So good. Now let's go back to that breakpoint that we set up earlier. If you go ahead and click on the breakpoint menu, and here we have Henry Bryce. Let's go ahead and click OK. So now this has been enabled. So if I go ahead and change the requester in here to Henry Bryce, we should be able to see the breakpoints working in action. So you notice that change actually did not get made yet, and the system analyzer is waiting. So it says it's about to retrieve the business object for Henry Bryce. We want to actually run until the next breakpoint, or we could go to the next message and see how it's continuing to set all the values and do each thing line by line. In this case, we're just going to run through all the way. Let's see what the next message is. And we see once again Henry Bryce's name came up, so it ran into that next breakpoint. And let's go ahead and click run again. And then it set the customer display name. Let's go ahead and run that. And now that's been set. If we take a look at the business object, we can see now that for this incident, Henry Bryce has been changed to requester. We can save that, and everything is taken care of. So the system analyzer was great, as it was allowing us to step through these changes. One of the great features of the system analyzer is, let's say that we were linking this to a problem record, and we had the problem ID. We'd be able to set up a breakpoint with the problem ID number in there, and so anytime we're linking that incident to the problem record, we'll be able to step through every step of the way and see what Cherwell's actually doing under the hood. And that wraps up the overview of the System Analyzer, one of the great new features here of Cherwell version 5. It gives you a little bit of insight of how we utilize this here at Beyond 20. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for other tips and tricks.